Greetings, mortals. It is I, Remortis, coming at you with a guide for Baldur's Gate 3. This time, revisiting some of my older builds and updating them with the current patches for Honor Mode. Today, we'll be going over the infamous Gloomstalker Thief build, combining the Ranger's survival instincts with the Rogue's expertise and subterfuge, making this a very devastating multi-class, up close or afar, and eliminating your targets with relative ease. In this updated guide, we'll be going over the various ways you can build it, some gameplay strategies, items, and even a leveling guide. But fear not, we'll have timestamps to skip to what matters to you. Let's just get right into it, shall we? So first and foremost, the purpose of this guide is to showcase the synergies of this build, and isn't the end-all be-all of Gloomstalker builds. Surely there is something out there that will do XYZ slightly better. That being said, this build is really solid. And we'll just go over a brief rundown of the build to front load the updated information. And you can stick around to hear the explanations and such if you desire. Anyways, it is a split of 5 levels of Gloomstalker Ranger for the extra attack at level 5 and the additional attack on the first round from Gloomstalker 3, as well as a few stealthy abilities and access to Ranger spells. We'll be taking 4 levels of Thief Rogue to grant us an additional bonus action, which we can use to help set up many of our attacks, or even use a bonus action to attack as well. And then we round it off with 3 levels of Fighter for Battle Master to give us access to flexible maneuvers in addition to the notorious Action Surge. And for feats, we'll simply be picking Sharpshooter to deal an extra plus 10 damage if we land our attacks at a penalty to hit, and the other feat being an ability score increase to improve our dexterity by 2. And there are plenty of weapons that we want to look out for in the game throughout the acts. And there are plenty of weapons that we want to look out for throughout the acts, whether it be dual-wielding hand crossbows or using a slew of sweet longbows and heavy crossbows, which we'll be going over further into the video. We'll also be utilizing consumables such as potions, poisons, and even special arrows. That could be useful for us as well. And in a nutshell, that is the build. For those of you who'd like to stick around, we'll be going over much more in depth on how the build works and the various options available to us as well. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe for more guides like these, and I'll catch you in the next one. Alright, so let's go over the origin racial options and starting stats. For origins, without spoiling anything, this build is fantastic for Astarion, or even Shadowheart, should you embrace Shar. Otherwise, it's an obvious choice for the Dark Urge, thanks to his unique items that you'll acquire early on. That being said, you could totally play Dark Urge as your main character and not even use this build and have your companion take this build instead, and they can use that sweet item. Otherwise, if we want to use the Dark Urge or our own custom Tav, what races are good for this build? Well, honestly, any race is fine, so play what you desire, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, that you like your character. Now, there are some pretty sweet options that really help out this build. The Wood Elf is actually a pretty sweet option, as they get weapon training, but that doesn't really matter since we have martial weapons as a ranger. We get Dark Vision, which is handy. We also get Fey Ancestry, which gives us advantage on saving throws from being charmed, and you can't be magically put to sleep, and that actually does come up quite a bit. The Wood Elf, however, to help move around the terrain a little bit, to help move around the battlefield a little easier. And then we should also get a proficiency into Perception from just being an elf. So that's another really great reason to be an elf. The Drow are also a great option for the same reasons the Wood Elf is for the most part, except they also get their own unique spells that they can cast once per long rest. Starting at level 1, you get access to the cantrip Dancing Lights to help give you a little illumination here and there. At level 3, you get Fairy Fire, which is a pretty decent AoE debuff spell. And at level 5, you'll get the access to cast Darkness, which is quite nice and synergizes quite well with your Gloomstalker. That being said, while the elves are the more traditional Gloomstalker, I will have to say my personal favorite, and what I think to be the strongest Gloomstalker, is the Dwergar Dwarf, or Dark Dwarf, whatever you want to call them. So not only do we get our combat trainings, but again, we don't really care about that since we'll have martial capabilities. We get a little bit of Dwarven Resilience here to get additional saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage, which can be relevant in some fights. But more notably, the Dwergar get their own spells as well. Unfortunately, it's not listed here. But the Dwergar will be getting the spell Enlarge at level 3. So Enlarge is a really sweet ability, as it will make you larger and all your weapon attacks will deal extra damage. And you also have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. And then the other thing too is that the Dwergar version of Enlarge does not require concentration. And at level 5, we get another spell, Invisibility, that we can use once per battle. And it does not use spell slots. But the fact that it's once per battle is sweet, meaning that we can have pretty much unlimited invisibilities outside of combat. Pretty nice. All in all, again, pick whichever race you desire. Halflings are always great because of the lucky feat to be able to re-roll things. And then, of course, just play with what you desire. But yeah, I had to vote that the Dwergar to be the superior Gloomstalker. Anyways, so as for our starting class, we will be beginning with the Rogue. What this will do compared to the Ranger is that it will give us a few extra skills that we wouldn't be able to get otherwise, and we get some different resistances. That doesn't really matter too much. But mostly it's just to get the expertise right off the get-go and also to be able to get a few extra skills. So our stats could be either a spread of 8 strength, 17 dexterity, and 16 constitution, with a hit to our intelligence at 8, and having a wisdom of 14. This is a pretty decent spread, a little bit more offensive or min-maxy, depending on how you look at it. Of course, we're going to always want to have a 17 in our dexterity. The constitution, on the other hand, that's up to you to decide if you want to be a little more hardy. Otherwise, you can decrease that to a 14, increase your strength and your intelligence by 10 each, and be a little more balanced. But again, it's all up to you. Either way, you'll be just fine. Typically on tabletop, the Gloomstalker actually wants a higher wisdom score, as your initiative bonus that you get from being a Gloomstalker will be usually off of your wisdom bonus. However, that's not the case in Baldur's Gate 3, so you don't need the wisdom score that high. All that's really going to do is just affect your ranger spells. And we don't get too many of them, so it's not really that big of a deal. And even then, most of them aren't really going to be using our wisdom score modifier. And as for our starting skills, this is currently with the Dark Urge origin. Hence why we have the Intimidation and Medicine inherited backgrounds. As for the rest of your skills, it is completely up to you what you desire. However, I would highly suggest and encourage getting Perception and Sleight of Hand at the very least, and making sure you expertise them as well. Sleight of Hand will allow you to unlock doors and disarm traps, and unlock chests, of course. Perception will allow you to detect hidden objects and those pesky traps that you want to disarm in the first place. So in order to disarm those, you need to see them first. So make sure you have Perception and Sleight of Hand. And the rest of your skills, you can do whatever you desire. You can put it into Stealth, Athletics, and just pick whatever else you desire for your skill points. And that is level 1. At level 2, we are not going to go into the Rogue, and instead we will begin our multi-classing into the Ranger immediately, and we're going to be going this route until we hit level 6. For your favorite enemy, you could decide to go into Bounty Hunter, which I think is the better overall ability, as you will get proficiency in investigation, and you also get a little bonus on your ensnaring strikes, making it harder to resist for your enemies. Ranger Knight could be decent too if you value heavy armor. However, this build will not be utilizing any heavy armor for the most part, so you don't really necessarily need that. And the other ones are just kind of whatever, in my opinion. So I think Bounty Hunter is the best option here. And for your Natural Explorer, you could have gone with Urban Tracker to get that Sleight of Hand proficiency, but we already have that on our Rogue. Although you could also make it so you don't use that either. If you decided if you wanted to wait to pick up your Rogue expertise or your Rogue level, maybe you pick up Sleight of Hand here just to get off the get-go, and you can pick up a different skill with your Rogue. Otherwise, we can go with Wasteland Wanderer Poison, Fire, or Cold. And if you're playing as a Dwergar, you don't need the Waste Wanderer Poison, so you can probably pick Fire and Cold here. So again, pick whichever you desire. Or you could also go with the Beast Tamer, just get the Conjure Familiar whenever you want. They're not very impactful, but they are an extra body and have a little bit of HP. So maybe your enemy will waste an attack on them. Something to consider. As for our skills, we'll be getting investigation, as mentioned. We can also decide to put our last point into survival, insight, nature, etc. I really enjoy survival or insight, since there's a lot of hidden objects that aren't based on perception and are actually based on survival. So maybe the survival might be a worthy investment here. And that is our level 2. Moving on to level 3, we'll be advancing our second level of Ranger. We'll be able to pick up our first slew of spells. We'll be picking up Hunter's Mark, as well as Ensnaring Strike. Pretty decent abilities. So Ensnaring will make it so that they take damage every turn, and attack rolls against the creature have advantage. And then while the creature's attack rolls and dexterities have disadvantage. And that is our spells. For our fighting style, there's a few options we can pick here. You can either go with the 2-weapon fighting style or the archery. 2-weapon will be useful for both your dual-wielding crossbows and your melee attacks, making you a little bit more of a versatile character. However, it is hard to deny the power of the archery fighting style. It gives you a +2 bonus to hitting with range attacks. This is very crucial to help negate your sharpshooter penalty from that -5. So I think archery is the way to go, though there is merit to using 2-weapon fighting style. At level 4, we'll advance to Ranger level 3, where we will pick up our Gloomstalker. We get another spell, and we'll be picking up Goodberry. This is an underrated spell that can help you get a little extra healing on the side, but more importantly, it also can be food for your camping supplies. So if you have any spell slots left over, you can use Goodberry to potentially get you preserve what little camping supplies you get. Of course, the other options to pick here would be Speak with Animals, Longstrider, or Enhanced Sleep. All of those are really great ritual spells, but hopefully you have that covered by somebody else. So let's go for Goodberry here. The other thing to note is when we get our Gloomstalker levels, we get our Dread Ambusher, which gives us our +3 flat bonus to initiative, which helps us go earlier in the turn. But not only that, on the first turn to combat, we get enhanced movement speed and also get an extra attack that will deal a bonus 1d8 damage. And you can use that attack any way you see fit. And you'll see it on the right side of your UI. The other features you get are your Dread Ambusher Hide, which isn't too necessary since we have that already from being a rogue. And then we also get Umbral Shroud, which is a little bit different than Stealth, as it will let you go invisible as long as you are in shadows or shade. And then we also get the spell Disguise Self. This is actually pretty interesting, especially if you're using some thieving shenanigans, or perhaps you might have murdered somebody and maybe you might want to speak with them through the spell Speak with Dead. However, they don't talk to their killer, so if you use your Disguise Self before you use that spell, you'll be able to talk to them just fine. And that is our level 4. At character level 5, we'll hit our Ranger level 4, and we'll be able to pick our first feat. Now, it is completely up to you how you wish to do this. Either you can go with the ability improvement to enhance your dexterity by 2, going up to 19, and with a certain thing in Act 1, you can also bump that up to 20. So that's pretty solid having that from the get-go for most of the game. Otherwise, we can go ahead and pick up Sharpshooter, which is what I like to do anyways, with or without the 20 into dexterity. Sharpshooter will allow us to make a toggleable attack to make an attack with a -5 penalty to your attack roll, but you'll also always do a flat additional 10 damage. This is really sweet. So if you feel like you're going to hit the target with this on, obviously you're going to want to use it. But there's some times when you might want to opt to turn it off so that we can use a regular attack. And then you also will not receive any penalties if you're shooting from low ground and shooting up a high ground. So that's pretty sweet. But yeah, Sharpshooter is really good, especially if you are able to get multiple attacks in a turn, such as with your Gloomstalker additional attack on top of the level 5 extra attack. And also your bonus actions, so say if you're using dual-wielding crossbows, for example. Yeah, Sharpshooter is what I really prefer. And there's other ways to enhance your attack rate as well, with spells such as Bless or other buffs, to help you make sure you're a little more accurate. And that is level 4. Moving on to Ranger level 5, character level 6, we get our extra attack and a second level spell for our Ranger. Really, you can pick whatever you desire. So Pass Without a Trace is a pretty sweet spell to enhance your stealth to even higher potential, and it can let you do a little bit of stealth attacking shenanigans. If you attack from a distance with your bow, for example, you'll be having to take a stealth check every time you make a shot to make sure you maintain your stealth, and this will just help you cheese that out a little bit better. Otherwise, one of my other favorite spells in the game is Spike Growth, which just makes a big field of spikes on the battlefield, and your enemies will take damage if they walk through it. Not just enemies, but yourself as well, but hopefully you're not standing in your own spike growth. And then you also can shove and pull people through your spikes, so that's something to consider. Otherwise, yeah, Pass Without a Trace is probably the no-brainer here. All right, and that was level 6. And at level 7, we're going to go ahead and go back to our rogue levels, where we can get our Cunning Action Hide, which we can use in place of the Umbral hiding that the Gloomstalker gets us. We also get Cunning Action Dash to be able to dash as a bonus action, as well as Disengage. Pretty good stuff to have. And at character level 8, we'll be enhancing to Rogue level 3, picking up the Thief subclass. This will give us an extra bonus action to do whatever we want with it, whether it be setting up with our other attacks, maybe using dash or another ability to get around or do something else, or perhaps even attacking if you're dual wielding crossbows. Then you also get a little bit of resistance from falling damage, which isn't too relevant, doesn't happen too often. The other option, obviously here, is the Assassin. This goes really well with the Gloomstalker, but it is only really good on the first turn. And typically on Honor Mode, things might survive past the first turn, in which case the Thief will be a better option to pick, and it's a little bit more versatile. The Assassin gets a few features that helps you immensely on that first turn. If you attack a target that's surprise, all of your attacks are critical hits. If you attack a target that hasn't taken their turn yet, which will happen on any time and in any kind of combat, not just surprise attacks, with your high initiative, you'll tend to be able to go first, so you'll get advantage, maybe even fish out a crit there. And lastly, you also get an ability called Assassin's Alacrity, which lets you get an extra attack on Alpha Strikes if you do attack ahead of time. Otherwise, if you attack before a fight breaks out, it'll consider you already taking a turn, whereas this will let you take another turn for free, essentially. But yeah, ultimately, we're going to be taking the Thief here. That extra bonus action will be able to let us set up a lot of other things, such as using Hunter's Mark or another spell, or perhaps just using a bonus action to get around. So Thief is the way. At level 4, we can either decide to go to Rogue level 4 to pick up a feat, or we can go ahead and pick up our fighter levels. Just for the sake of simplicity, we're going to just pick up our ability score improvement and get that up to 19. Otherwise, the full build, you can also go with 4 levels of fighter instead of rogue to get that extra HP. But at character level 10, we'll be advancing onto fighter to pick up another fighting style, which we can take up 2 weapon fighting if we already took up archery, or we could take up defense to get extra armor class if, by just simply wearing armor, which we will be. And that's pretty much it. Everything else here isn't too meaningful for us, so it's either 2 weapon fighting or defense, or archery if you decide to go 2 weapon fighting before. And at character level 11, we'll be able to get the infamous Action Surge. This allows us to grant us a full action, so that means we can take all the attacks we could take normally. So after we expend our normal 2 attacks, we can use Action Surge and get 2 more on top of that. Pretty sweet to help you get that little extra burst if you need it. And it recovers on a short rest. At level 12, there's 2 options you can do here. You can either go with 3 levels into Fighter and going with Battle Master. In my humble opinion, that's a little bit better. It's a little more versatile, as you can get various maneuvers to accomplish different things, depending on what you need. I really enjoy using precision attack, disarming, tripping, pushing, whatever you need. And then all of these can be used at range as well, except for Riposte. That being said, there is another option to pick, which is a little bit more gamey, which is picking up a cleric level with the War Domain to get you an extra attack with War Priest. When you make an attack with a weapon attack, you can spend a War Priest charge to make an additional attack as a bonus action. This is pretty decent and can help you do some devastating damage with a bigger weapon that isn't a hand crossbow, such as a nice big beefy heavy crossbow or longbow, and there's plenty of really good longbows in the game, which we'll be going over just shortly. But again, for simplicity's sakes, we'll be just sticking with the fighter and going with Battle Master. Like I said, I'll be picking up precision, perhaps disarming, and then either trip or push, whichever you desire more. Menacing could also be pretty decent too, as you can potentially frighten an enemy, although you don't necessarily need to use this, since there's other ways we can inflict the frightened condition with our Gloomstalker. Sweeping attack could be interesting, but it's only melee, I believe. And not only that, it doesn't enhance you a full weapon strike. It only does whatever your maneuver die is. So we can either go with tripping to potentially make things go prone, or we can do pushing just to shove things away. I personally like shoving things, as knockbacks in this game are very nice. All right, and so that is the leveling guide. Now let's move on towards the items and within each act that you might want to keep an eye out for. So hand crossbows can be dual wielded and let you shoot 2 shots, one with your main action attack and one with a bonus action attack. So in combination with your level 5 Gloomstalker, giving you your extra attack from your attack feature, and also the Thief's extra bonus action could make it so you can shoot your dual wield crossbows twice with each hand, or a total of 4 shots. And a typical hand crossbow will do at least 1d6 plus 10 from your sharpshooter. So at the minimum, you're doing 11 damage with each shot. So what is that? 44 damage at the very minimum? Then of course there's other damage riders you can add on there as well. The obvious is your dexterity bonus and other bonuses gained from the weapons themselves or some other items you might carry. So while hand crossbows can dish out a lot of damage and actually weaponize your bonus action attack, they do suffer from having a shorter effective range. As one thing you might notice as you're shooting your bows, if the target is too far from your weapon's effective range, you'll actually get disadvantage on the attack rather than the normal chance to hit. This can be very impactful, as using your sharpshooter will give you a -5 penalty. And typically you want to have advantage on all of your attacks. And if they're too far away, you'll provoke disadvantage, and that will negate all the bonuses from advantage that you might have. Same goes the other way around too, by the way. But anyway, so that's the hand crossbows, and there aren't too many in the game, sadly. That being said, you can find a pretty early one down in the Underdark. And you can also find a few +1 and +2 crossbows here and there. And then in Act 2, you can find the Netter Misser from the Halfling Zent merchant you might find in Moonrise Towers. And then lastly, you'll get another fire hand crossbow from a demon in Act 2, if you eliminate him. But that's all there is as far as hand crossbows go. So while they do dish out a ton of damage, they are kind of limited in their effects, and there are a lot of really cool bows out there in the game. And we're not going to talk about every single bow in the game, but we will talk about 2 in particular that you'll actually acquire also really early in the game. So, funny enough, both of these bows I'm going to be talking about are acquired the same way, more or less. So in Act 1, there is a group of gnolls attacking some would-be travelers, I guess you could say. Help eliminate those gnolls and rescue those people in the cave, and help them deliver their package to their destination. Or, you can just murder them and take the package yourself. And as long as you turn it into the Zentarum, all the way over by Joaquin's Rest, and then make sure you don't open it, you turn it into the person in charge there, and you will be rewarded with the heavy crossbow called Herald.
Our trader can show you some of our more exotic items now, but don't delay. This place is likely to be rubble soon. Someone, kid, I don't plan on it.
So Herald is a pretty decent heavy crossbow. It does a decent amount of damage, 1d10 +1, but anytime you attack a target with it, they must succeed a charisma check or be afflicted with the Bane condition, meaning that they get a -1 to 4 penalty to their hit die, and saving throws too. This could be really useful to free up a spell slot that somebody might use to cast Bane, since you can get it for free here, and combo it with your other spellcasters who might be trying to inflict some conditions that require saving throws. That's all fine and dandy. But the other reason you want to do this quest is now not only do you get this beautiful heavy crossbow, but you'll be given access to a better variety of goods from the Zentarum merchant down just below. Namely, for one of the best longbows in the game, the Titan String Bow. This is just a 1d8 plus 1 longbow that uses your dexterity modifier. However, it also will use your strength modifier as additional damage. If you stack your dexterity and strength to get up to 20 or higher, that's at least a plus 5 bonus from your strength and dexterity minimum. And add sharpshooter on top of that, that's at least a minimum of plus 20 damage just from your stats and sharpshooter alone, without any other modifiers whatsoever. So that's pretty damn nice. So obviously, in our build, we have an innate strength. However, there are a few ways to circumvent this. One is obviously the giant strength potions, which will increase your strength up to 21. Pretty sweet. But what if you don't have enough money or ways to get those potions reliably? Well, you are in luck, as there is a pretty handy item you can also get in the Underdark that is often missed by many people. It is a particular club of Hill Giant Strength, which can be found on the highest floor of the Arcane Tower. There is a stool of Giant Strength. If you see, when you approach it, you'll see it's knocked over, and you can put it right side up and sit on it, and bam, you have a ton of strength. However, when you get off the stool, you'll be reduced to whatever you were before. So, what can we do with this? Well, if you break the chair, it'll actually come apart, and what will remain is a club of Hill Giant Strength. And while you're wielding this club, your strength will be increased to 19. However, you can't go beyond it unless your stats normally go that high. But either way, this is a really fantastic item to have in your offhand, not even just for this character, but for any character that might want to dump their strength stat, but still utilize it. And you can always put this just in your offhand and have another weapon in your main hand. Anyways, so this will be a simple combo for that Titan String Longbow. Now, I know I was going to mention only those two bows in the game. There is, however, another bow that may be worth considering. And that is a short bow, which can also be found in the Underdark, this time from the Dwergar. And this particular bow is called the Bow of the Banshee. When you shoot somebody with this Bow of the Banshee, they have a high chance to inflict the Frightened Condition. So the Frightened Condition is debilitating on its own. They have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and they cannot move. The other part of this bow is that whenever you attack with it, you get an additional plus 1d4 bonus to attack against frightened creatures. Oh, did I just say attack? It also increases your damage against them too. So that's just a free 1d4 to hit and 1d4 extra damage. Pretty nice from a little short bow. Both of these bows, both the Bow of the Banshee and the Titan String Bow, are very fantastic choices to use. Obviously, the Bow of the Banshee won't be as useful for you against undead targets or things that are immune to the Frightened Condition, but it is a good thing to just swap out and in and out when you know a certain fight is coming along. And of course, there are plenty of other bows that you might find in the game that are also quite incredible, but we're not going to cover that in this video, because I feel like I want to just cover the early acts 1 and 2, because that's going to be where most people are struggling in their honor mode playthrough. And hopefully with these bows, your Gloomstalker Thief might prosper. I hope this guide helped you find success with your Gloomstalker Thief, and help you succeed in your honor mode playthroughs. Please like, comment, subscribe for more guides like these. And of course, if you'd like, please like, comment, subscribe for more guides like these, or comment down below to tell me how you build your Gloomstalker Thief, or Assassin. Or you can always just tell me how wrong I am, like I'm sure many of you will do anyways. Anyways, I really hope to see you guys in the next guide. I'll probably be doing my Locked-In, since that was my most popular video, and we'll do that up with an updated build in the next video. And don't worry, I got more Necronomicon stuff coming up. I know many of you have been asking for that as well. So anyways, hope to see you guys in the next video. Farewell for now.